there's a possibility that Albany might cover the over themselves. But if there isn't, I feel like not at all. That's not where my pick is going. Albany -4 myself.
Spoke to Pat this week about a recruit that's in the area, and they got beaten all facets of the game against Maryland. And
Yeah.
I had picked High Point against Maryland to cover last week. I didn't think that last year, and I thought that they would cover last week, and they got blown out with the fact that High Point beat Virginia last year. And even though it was weekend, is going to allow a UVA team to come in and not respect their next opponent, and especially not respect an opponent that beat them last year, even though they are very well coached. I just think that there's too many intangibles going for UVA's going in UVA's favor. And this week, I think that they're going to control the middle of the field. They're going to control the ground balls. And I think they're going to be way too much for High Point. So as much as I want to pick Torp and Pat, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to chance losing 2 points here against you. So I am going to go with UVA and hard as they create their identity in 2017. I got UVA in the over.
For the exact same reasons that you just mentioned, the face-off being an issue, one of the biggest advantages that you all know that they have transition in the middle of the field off a shot save or cause turnover. But these guys have massive face-off transition game, and it could pose some serious problems for High Point. With that being said, I'm going to go with High Point on this one, covering 5 goals. And I'm actually going to take I'm going to take the under here. I have a feeling that John Torpy is going to throw out, much like what Penn threw out, a zone defense against Virginia. And with that being said, it's going to slow down the pace. Can they slow down the face-off transition is the biggest question. If they can't, they're going to lose by 10 points. I'm going to trust that John Torpy is going to get it done. So I think they're going to cover, maybe lose by 4 or less. I don't think they're going to win, but I will take the under on 24.5. If I'm right on the under, it's simply because they couldn't score enough and UVA blows them out. So at least I'll maybe catch one.
I hope High Point wins, but we'll see.
Here. We'll see. Next up, arguably game of the week, but it's not the game of the week. Loyola, number 13, Towson, is at home in Unitas Stadium versus number 11 Loyola. Loyola is favored by 1.5 goals. The over-under here is 19.5. Is Towson's defense that good to keep the over-under that low, AT?
This is a really good line by Las Vegas Lines because Loyola's going to win the game. Last year, Towson beat Loyola. And I think it was 12-10, something like that. But I think that Towson's lost a little bit on the defensive end. You know, Nans is a phenomenal coach, obviously, and they're going to eventually return to form. But I think that they lost a lot of personnel that's going to be tough to replace in this game early in the year. They beat Georgetown, and I thought that Georgetown would come back and play a better game against Towson. I picked them last week against Towson. I wasn't sure that they were going to win, but I did think that they would cover, and they did. They played well. Than Georgetown, and Loyola is playing with a chip on their shoulder, given their 1-goal loss to Virginia, given their 1-goal loss in overtime to Hopkins. They obviously blew up Lafayette last week. Half in this game. I think that Loyola is going to come in. I see them winning like 13-8, something like that. So I'm going to take.
As much as I do agree with you with the losses they have on the defensive end, it's really much, given what Towson's performance over the last few games. I'm going to go the opposite again here. I'm going to take Towson, and I'm going to take Towson to win outright. Alex has been the differentiator for Towson in making up for the lack of, I guess, or the loss of defense on the other end because they don't have to seize nearly as many possessions.
Graham Savio, he's got a big battle with Graham Savio.
He does. You see the over here, but I'm going to take Towson in the victory, especially on a Wednesday night at home. I like them too much here, so I'm going to take Towson, and I'm going to take the over here. And I know you have the over as well. 19.5 is just a little too slow, a little too low for me. Now we're getting into the lines that no one has. These are the lines that no one has. So if you're on the show, if you're a degenerate gambler with your friends, I guess this
write them down. Right.
This is the only reason why you're on the show, I guess. But right now, we're going to release what they gave us. Number 3, Hopkins, going to New Jersey to play Princeton. Johns Hopkins is favored by 4.5. The over-under here is 23, AT. What do you think here?
I think 4.5 is a low line. I'm definitely going Johns Hopkins in this line. The over-under, I think, is spot on. Listen, Hopkins just has too much. You know, they have this game. They've got an identity offensively with 6 studs and another 2 lines of mids behind them. I just see them having way too much offense. They seem like a national championship caliber team right now.
They do.
And Joel Tinney changes them. The maturity of Shaq Stanton, which makes their offense scary. You know, he could score 5 goals in the first quarter, and he might not score a goal for 2 games, and he seems good with that, which is the sign of a true team-first leader. And I just think that Hopkins is a team that, after being down, the last couple years, I think is arguably the top team in the country right now. They really are. Mm-hmm. Do they score enough, both teams? Does Princeton score enough to get to the over? I can see Hopkins scoring 15 goals. I can see him scoring 18 goals. And I like the Princeton goalkeeper. But I just don't think that Michael Sowers is a stud, one of the best young attackmen in the country for Princeton. Courier, their midfielder, is also a stud. They'll score, 8 goals, 10 goals, something like that. But I think closer to 8. I can see it like 17-8 or 16-8. I got Hopkins in the over.
I'm not gonna go against you this one, although I do think that Mataraz is going to have his issues with Zach Curry at the faceoff X. And
it's not. It's Bonafide's the one that faces off from him. They put Courier on the wing.
I did notice that at the end of the game, though, against Marist, they started putting Courier back at the faceoff X. So and I think they're doing that simply to save Courier for the long haul of 4 quarters, which is tough to do. In either case, Michael Sowers is that next level attackman that Princeton needs in the next 4 years, but not right now. Certainly not with Joel Tinney's bringing to the table for Hopkins and the momentum he's bringing for and it's amazing, just one guy. And that one guy can potentially bring you a national championship, and that's what Johns Hopkins is looking at right now. I also have Johns Hopkins minus 4.5, and I have the over as well. I do think as well. Number 17, Ohio State, going to Milwaukee to play Marquette, who's now unranked. The line on this one is OSU favored by 1.5. The over-under here is 19, which is an interesting over-under, but it makes sense, I guess, based on the scores of these two teams over the last few weeks. AT, what do you think here?
I've criticized OSU for having a lack of offensive punch, and I still think that applies. I'm not blown away by that. I do think that they're going to win a well-coached defensive team, even though they got pounded 9-2 by Richmond. They only let up 9 goals. I mean, it's not that many goals.
Right.
So I think the fact that I'm not in love with OSU's offensive production, they're traveling to Marquette. Marquette didn't be a Richmond team, maybe a top 10 team. And they're a defensively minded team. See OSU winning this game something like 11-6.
All on this one. I do like OSU. I think there's a slight advantage here with Marquette at home. I think it could be a 1-goal game, but I would say it's not. I think that OSU is going to go in there. I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game. I'd actually say it's less than the score that you said. I think it's going to be like a 9-6.
Could be.
Just a really, really low-scoring game. I've got OSU covering that 1.5, and at Penn State and State College. I'm helping out with the team this year for Penn. Exciting buzz coming out of the program at Penn. Mike Murphy getting in your face game coach of the week, which is huge. I'll deliver his award. I'll deliver his award for
his
him.
McDonald's cheeseburger.
It could be, or that the street
scrape
meat on
the
the
onions
corner.
off.
But obviously, I'm going with Penn here. I got confidence in the team, of course. But AT Penn pick 'em.
Yeah.
And the over/under is 24. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that Mike Murphy was able to slow down Virginia's offense coming into the game last week against Virginia. I would have thought that they wouldn't have been able to do that. I picked Virginia in that game. And so certainly Mike Murphy, as a defensive player himself and as a defensively minded coach, a plan to slow down Penn State. Does he play a zone again? He might. And, but there's no question that he is going to be the toughest. Chris Santangelo did a great job facing off, particularly down the stretch of that game last week, winning a lot forward from what I saw. But I think Chris Santangelo is going to get beat this week against against Gerard, the best guy in the whole country, Gerard Arcieri. And so I think Penn State's going to win that battle, which may allow them to win the overall ground ball battle. Individual components on defense. I think Mike Murphy is a great scheme coach, and I think that Penn is going to be the first team to slow Penn State down this year and frustrate Mac O'Keefe, Grant Ament, and the other sensational Penn State underclass offensive players. So I like Penn in this game. I also think that part of playing a great defense is being deliberate on offense. And I think realize that, a game that goes up and down and up and down, up and down probably doesn't allow Penn to utilize part of its game plan. And that is to, I think, win a lower scoring anybody offensively. So I've got Penn and the under in this game.
That's a great one. We'll move on to the next one. Number 13, Towson, going to UMBC down the street to them. Towson is favored by 4.5. The over/under here is 20. What are your thoughts here?
We spoke a little bit about last week, his first win as a head coach. So congratulations, Rhino. That's a sick win.
Yep.
But I just don't think Towson is going to allow them to win back-to-back games. Towson doesn't. So I like Towson to cover 4.5, and I like the under 20. So I got Towson in the under.
Yeah, this one's an easy one for me too. I also think they're going to be at the under. Towson's defense and face-off control is going to be too much for UMBC. It is good to see Ryan Moran pick up his first win, but they're running into a very, very tough team under as well. I have like a 10-5 type game. Lafayette at West Point, number 16, Army. Army's favored by 6.5. The over-under here is 20, which is really weird. Probably because they don't think Lafayette's going to score, I guess, at all. But AT, what do you think here?
This is easy to me. I mean, Army minus 6.5. I think Army's going to cover that in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Lafayette's in trouble, and they're playing a team that's going to be tougher than them at West Point. Army's coming off of a 14-goal. They continue to play fast. They're going to win all the faceoffs. They're going to empty the bench, and they're going to score 18-plus goals. I see, again, 18-5, 20-5, something like that. I got Army in the over.
I'm going to take Army for sure in this, but I'm actually going to take the under. Weirdly, I think that Lafayette's not going to score enough, and I don't think Army's going to score enough either. For those who think this is going to be a blowout, it probably will be, but the thing is, this is a league game. This is an important game, so Army's not taking this lightly. A one slip to a Lafayette team, and all of a sudden they're in jeopardy of not making a Patriot League tournament with such a great league. So expect Army to punch Lafayette in the face, but I don't think it gets to 20. I have like a 14-3 or something like that. So that's my pick. Holy Cross goes to Loyola in another Patriot League game. Loyola, number 11 in the country. They're basing this off of early lines, obviously, because they don't have the results from the Towson game. But Loyola -5 here. The over-under is 22. What do you think, AT?
It was good to see Holy Cross come back and win their first game of the year last week. I think they won 14-8. But I just think that Loyola has too much. Loyola's going to win the face-off. I think Patrick Spencer's going to go off. And I think Loyola's going to be playing with an offensive chip on their shoulder for the rest of the season, given the frustrating start. So to me, I think that even if it's close at halftime, and I think Judd will have Holy Cross, I think it'll still be a game at halftime. I really do. But I just think Loyola is going to end up opening it up down the stretch. So I like Loyola here. I think Holy Cross will score some goals. But I think I'll take Loyola in the over. I like 22 is a good number by Las Vegas lines, but I like the over. I think Loyola's just going to have too much. I do think Holy Cross scores some goals enough to cover the over. So I got Loyola in the over.
I'm gonna go against you here. I'm gonna take the over. I will take the over, but I'm gonna go Holy Cross covering 5 goals. This is too important of a game for Holy Cross. Loyola's coming off a short week since they're playing tonight. I think that Holy Cross's 10-man is going to cause a little bit of issues. It's also going to, from that standpoint, throwing a 10-man slows the game down. You're going to look at a little bit disorganized. Judd will take his time. He's got a very disciplined offensive system. He's going to take his time on the offensive end, all playing into his favor. I think they're going to have to score enough goals. I don't know what the face-off X is going to stand for both teams. I think Loyola is going to dominate that area, which means Holy Cross is going to have to pick it up, in terms of pace. How are the two goalies going to perform? And it's a big one. But I do have Loyola winning this. I think 5's a little too much. I'm going to take Holy Cross. I'm going to take the over.
I like it.
Next up, we have number 19 Brown. We're going number 18, which... Are we doing the Brown game or the Stony Brook game, AT?
Brown game.
Brown game. Number 19, Brown versus number 14, Rutgers in New Jersey. Rutgers is favored by 1.5. Your boys are the underdog in this one. 28. 28, AT, is the over-under. 28.
Listen, I like this line that they created. I understand why it is what it is. I think that Brown underestimated Stony Brook, but I think the biggest issue for Brown was clearly their goaltending. Freshman goalie.
It's not Jack Kelly.
Goalie. No, it's not. They saved 30% of the shots that were taken, and they were really exposed. And Rutgers, I'm not sure, isn't as dynamic as Stony Brook, and they play fast too. But I think that was an aberration last week for Brown and their defense. They've got too many great players, and obviously their offense speaks for itself. I'm not concerned about that, but I think Brown snaps back in a big, big way. I think Ted Ottens, Larkin Kemp, Alec Tullip, those guys control the ball in the middle of the field. I think that Brown's going to get a bounce-back performance from their freshman goaltender, provided that Coach Daly starts him again, which I'm sure he will. And while Rutgers, I have a ton of respect for Brian Breck and what they've done, and they're going to push it and they're going to run, and it's going to be a super high-scoring game. I see Brown winning this game outright, and I can see it being about 17-15 because of the respect I have for Rutgers' offense. I will say I was a little surprised. I didn't think Brown's defense, just due to the personnel they have, was capable of giving up that many goals. But when you get a goaltender that is, new to college lacrosse and let's face it, that position, time it's happened to every goalie at some point, but I do think he's going to bounce back. He's simply too good, and I think Brown has too much faith in him, and I got too much faith in Brown. So I like Brown in the over.
I'm gonna go the exact opposite, I'll take the over for sure. I think this is going to be a great game. It's going to be a lot of goals, but I just think there are too many freshmen on the field for Brown. I think that you're playing a system that's going to cause, Rutgers is going to cause too many turnovers, or Brown is going to create too many unforced turnovers, and Rutgers is going to capitalize. They have too many. I'm going to take Rutgers at 1.5, and I'm going to take the over but I don't see Brown getting out of their rut quite yet. And I see Rutgers continuing to roll. You're going to have a prepared Brian Breck going into this. And, Brown is playing fast. They've just got to try to play faster, better than others. And I think Rutgers right now is playing fast, and they're playing well. And
they are.
For that
really
reason, I'm going to take Rutgers in at least a 2-goal victory.
I'm pumped that Brown gets to come back and play at Rutgers, probably the best out-of-conference team on their schedule at a time when Rutgers is playing so well. I'll bet you if you asked the Brown players, and I know if you asked the Brown staff, they would say that this is the perfect type of opponent for them to bounce back. They were humbled last week. And so to have to go down to Rutgers and play a blue-collar team after getting embarrassed on their home field against Stony Brook, I don't think you can write a better script for everybody that wants Brown to win this game. So, but listen, I understand why you pick it. And if I wasn't a Brown fan, I may pick Rutgers as well. But I'm certainly biased. I got no problem saying that. But I think Brown bounces back and wins this game.
Number 18, Stony Brook in the Island versus Fairfield. The line here is 4.5. Stony Brook is favored. 22.5 is the over-under. Interesting game here. Stony Brook coming off an obviously big win against Brown, but are they for real? I mean, that's really the question here. Are they for real? And is 4.5 too much for a Fairfield team?
Ass still hurts from last week, right? There's no question that Stony Brook is for real. They certainly got my attention with that win. They certainly can put up offense. And the other side of it is Fairfield seems like they can't do anything offensively outside of, I think, 14-13 or something like that, beaten by a 1-goal game. Fairfield's been oddly extremely low scoring. And so to me, for them traveling all the way out to Stony Brook, I don't think this sets up well for Fairfield. I like Stony Brook, and the fact that Fairfield were able to hold Rutgers, I think down to 9 goals, and that's definitely a low number for Rutgers. I think that I think that they're going to do a pretty good job of holding Stony Brook down, but they're not going to cover 4.5. I like Stony Brook and the under here. So that's it. That's my pick. Stony Brook and the under.
I'm going to take Stony Brook here as well with 4.5, but I'm going to take the over on 22.5. I think that's just going to be too many goals from the Stony Brook side. If they can put up 25 against Brown, they can certainly put up 15 plus against a Fairfield team, and I do think that Fairfield scores enough. So that's the only reason I'm taking the over. But I do have a Stony Brook team that is, turning the corner, it seems like, especially after the first half, and I have over on 22.5. AT, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to give SISU Mouthpieces a big shout out here. We'll be right back. Maximize your comfort.
At SISU, we take a very scientific approach to making sure our technologically advanced, doctor-developed, scientifically backed, industry-changing mouth guards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouth guards on the planet to guarantee you're protected. No matter what comes your way, the SISU Next Gen. SISU, talk, breathe, drink. At SISU, we take a very scientific approach to making sure our technologically advanced, doctor-developed, scientifically backed, industry-changing mouth guards are the most protective, lightest, talkable, breathable, comfortable, drinkable, removable mouth guards on the planet to guarantee you're protected. No matter what comes your way, the SISU Next Gen. SISU, talk, breathe, drink. Scientific approach to making sure our technologically advanced, scientifically removable mouth guards protected. No matter what comes your way, the SISU Next Gen. SISU, talk, breathe, drink.
All right, we're back in. We got Towers rebooted.
Yes.
For all those 2 games left, we're at about 58 minutes or so, AT, so we're going to be quick for the last ones. But so far, so good. We've got number 15 Albany going to Ithaca to play Cornell at 1 p.m. this Saturday. Albany's favored by 4.5 goals. The over-under here is 24.5. Can Cornell score enough goals to make it on the over against Albany? AT, what do you think here?
I'm concerned. Cornell, I thought, would be doing better than they are. I know that they're young. 10 goals every single game. That's a lot of responsibility to put on a freshman. But let's face it, if he's on the cover of these magazines and he's regarded as the top recruit in the country, you got to think, Jared Bernhardt at Maryland. But they're struggling right now. Albany, however, is not struggling. They're playing really well. And so I think Albany is going to make up for Cornell's lack of offensive production here. I see Albany lighten up 4.5. That's going to be no problem on the cover. 24.5 goals. Does Cornell score 10 goals? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to take Albany, and I'm going to take the under. I just think 24.5 is a lot of goals, and I'm not convinced that Cornell is going to be able to throw up 10 goals. I think I just don't like where Cornell is right now, and I'm shocked by it. But I got Albany in the under.
I've got Albany. I've got the over on this one, though. I do think that it's going to be a very high-scoring game for Albany, and I think enough of a high-scoring game for Cornell. I could see like a 16-10 win here, and I see Cornell scoring late in this game. I could even see 18 goals by Albany in this game. I just think that the face-off X is a serious issue for Cornell after having such success in years past, and I still think that they're trying to figure themselves out offensively and defensively. I'll take the over. Bryant at number 6 Yale. Hated Yale. Yale right now is favored by 3 goals. The over-under here is 22.5. What do you think here, AT?
You know what? I would have thought that Bryant would credit BU for finding a way to get that done. But Bryant has good players, and they're a well-coached team. But Andy Shea getting his team to rally back from being in the hole 11-6 and being in it all the way into the final possession against Maryland without Ben Reeves in uniform was, again, I mean, that's just what Andy Shea does. I mean, he's just flat out, one of the top, top 3 coaches in the country. I mean, maybe he's the top guy, maybe he's 5, I don't know, but he just gets his team, he gets the best out of his team. They're going to win the face-offs, I think. And Phil Hufford's doing pretty well for them in the goal based on that being a question mark going into the season. 22.5 goals. I don't know if Ben Reeves plays or not. Frankly, with a pulled hamstring, I wouldn't be surprised if he sits out another week. But Yale's proved that they can score without Ben Reeves in the lineup. And I think that Bryant will score some goals, but I'm going to take Yale, and I'm going to take the over.
I think the worst decision that Andy Shea could make is playing Ben Reeves against the Bryant team this weekend. It's unnecessary.
Doesn't matter.
It does not matter. The only thing that matters, and we talked about this before, is Yale playing in the Ivy League and doing well in the Ivy League games.
Yep, you're right.
And coming off of, I do think, though, that a Bryant team coming off of a loss to BU is going to put them in a position to perform better this weekend against Yale, but Yale's going to be too tough across the board. 22.5, though, is interesting. Bryant played a lot of zone against BU. You got to figure Yale has to prepare for that. It's going to slow the game down. I've got Yale -3, but I'm going to take the under on this one. Regardless of Reeves playing or not, I do think that the zone is going to slow the pace down, and it's going to put Bryant in a position to at least cover the under on this. But Yale still wins by 3 for sure. We're going out to Denver in this one. UNC, they are ranked number, holy smokes, where's my
7
number 7 versus number
1.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
I'm great with numbers. I'm numbers and shapes. It's letters I'm not that good
But
at.
is Maryland number 1 too?
They're tied.
Oh, sorry, that's why I was so confused. I was like, wait a minute, my numbers are way off. Number 7, UNC goes to Denver in, as we call, the dentist office to play number 1 Denver. Denver is favored by 2.5 goals here. The over-under is 22.5. Denver has had some serious success over UNC over the last few years. AT, what do you have here?
3 weeks ago, I would have said this was going to be the in-your-face game of the season. But Carolina has not got off to a great start, particularly offensively this year. Defensively, Hopkins explodes for 13 goals, which, let's face it, that may end up being a low number for Hopkins' offense as the season wears on. We're gonna find out. But I just don't like the way UNC is playing right now. I'm really looking forward to the battle at the X between Trevor Baptiste and Stephen Kelly. That's going to be really fun to watch. But I just don't think that Carolina has an offensive identity in 2017 yet. They will get it because Metz Bauer is arguably the best offensive coach in the country. They will get it. but I think it's too early in the season to fly to Denver and to play a team that they've really struggled against in the last 6 years to cover 2.5. And the fact that they're not getting it done offensively, I'm gonna take Denver, and I'm gonna take the under, even though I hope Carolina blows them out, but I know they won't. So I got Denver in the under.
I like it. I've got Denver for sure. I think it's going to be a much higher scoring game than 22.5, though. I'm going to take the over in this one. Trevor Baptiste is going to dominate the face-off X. Denver is going to dominate on all parts of the field. I just don't feel like UNC has it in. We're talking about it. We all thought it was like kind of like this weird score, but that Furman game for UNC, that's 7-3, probably indicated some red flags for UNC.
Definitely.
And for me, going into a team like Denver at Denver, now if it was the opposite, I could see the under, and I could see UNC. So I'm taking Denver 2.5, and I'm taking the over in this one. Next up, you've got number 20 Duke. I wrote them all backwards, man. At Richmond, who's number 12? How many times in our lives are we going to see a Duke team that's not ranked higher than a Richmond team?
Right.
But number 12, Richmond, who was your king.
No, we got beat up by Petro for runner-up.
For one deal. But Dan Shamati was a former IYF Coach of the Week. But here, Duke and Richmond, this is a pick'em. It's a pick'em, 22, but it's in Richmond. Does that make a difference, AT?
It does make a difference. I mean, listen, Richmond deserves to get picked in this game based on the fact that they beat them last year, based on what. But I look at Duke's bounce back performance against St. Joe's, really tough, out in Denver the week before, and I see Duke winning the faceoffs in this game, and I see the fact that they exploded last week, although not against a team that's as defensively proficient as Richmond is. But the fact that it's a pick'em, Duke just has to win the game, and they lost last week to they lost last year to Richmond, and they're going to win the faceoffs. I'm going to take Duke, and I think the fact that Richmond is such a great defensive team, and the numbers at 22, I like Duke in the under.
I like Duke here. I like Duke
It's
here.
so hard to not pick them.
It is. And Richmond's proven themselves as a team that can score, so I'm going to take the over in this one.
Yeah.
But in terms of what Richmond has done over the last, it's really, really, really good. But now they're going to get a team that, albeit young, is probably going to win in a pick'em. If it wasn't a pick'em, I'd have a harder time, but I feel like this is an easy one with a pick'em with Duke. So I'm going to go with Duke as well. But I'm going to take the over. You took the under, I believe, correct?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be the under. I think that you got two teams that can score. I think that you got a Duke team that's still trying to figure themselves out on the defensive end. I think you got a Richmond team that has figured themselves out. And it could be it could be the exact opposite of what we're talking about, but I'm going to take Duke just in pure picking. We've got number 10, Syracuse, in the Dome against number 9, UVA. UVA has 1 point, is laying 1 in this. The over-under in this one as well is 28 goals. We're talking speed, fast lacrosse. Is Ben Williams going to play for Syracuse? Is he hurt? Is he going to stay hurt for a long time? But this is an ACC game. This is a must-win for both teams. AT, what do you got?
I don't think Ben Williams is going to be at the top of his game in this game if he plays. My sense is that if he didn't play last week against Army, everything he can to play in this game, and let's face it, if he doesn't play, to me, there's no chance for Syracuse to compete in this game if Ben Williams doesn't play. Their opportunity is connected to them winning faceoffs. I really believe that. I don't love their defensive personnel. I do think Leland's a great coach, and I think he's going to come out, and I think he's going to play some zone in this game, which is very un-Syracuse-like. But after watching what Penn did to Virginia at home last week by playing that, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Syracuse come out and try to slow the game down that way. But if they're not winning faceoffs, play a zone when you fall behind if you're trying to win the game, and I think they're going to have to step out and put some pressure around the perimeter, and that's not going to bode well for them. And I just see Virginia coming back with a vengeance a little bit. Sorry, Clark, you may disagree, but there's no question it's just not as scary. So I've got Virginia, and I've got the over.
I'm going to take Virginia in this one, too. I think that the face-off X is going to be dominated. Their face-off transition is going to dominate. We talked about that in terms of how Penn was able to stifle them a little bit. Syracuse, I would be shocked to see Syracuse play in a zone. Now, the blueprint has been set by Penn, that path. Does Syracuse think that they can run with them? Because right now, I don't think they can. I think there's a lot of doubt in a Syracuse team right now with a loss to Army and a 1-goal win. Again, a hell of a lot of confidence right now up in the Dome. And
I agree.
For that reason, I'm taking UVA. And for that reason as well, I will take the under. I think UVA is going to score a lot of goals, but I don't think Hughes does. I could be wrong. We have one more game until we get to this. Bellarmine at number 17, Ohio State. Ohio State favored by 3. The over-under here is 21. Real quick, AT, who do you think you got in this one?
Well, Ohio State's playing at Marquette on Friday, and then they come back and they play Bellarmine on Sunday at home. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of
considered the home team.
Like, let's all meet in Wisconsin and play a bunch of lacrosse games.
Exactly.
So painful. All right. Well, then it doesn't change what I'm going to say. I still think Ohio State covers 3 goals, no problem. And while I think they'll be tired, 21, does Bellarmine score? I don't know.
Weekend 2-0 would be huge. So that I think they're going to be well prepared. I think this Bellarmine game, the second game, is going to be an interesting one because I do think that Bellarmine has the capability of knocking them off. But for the sake of confidence in my picks, I'm going to take Ohio State -3. I'm going to take the under as well. I don't think either team gets to a ton of points here. I see a 10-9-ish, or excuse me, it's a 10-7-ish game, somewhere around there, which puts Ohio State +3 or -3 and keeps it right underneath that 21-goal cushion. Now, let's get to the game of the week. Number 1 versus number 4, Maryland in South Bend, 12 noon this Saturday. Maryland is favored by under. What do you think, Carrie T?
What a game. I mean, this is you look at Penn State, Penn as a potential game of the week game.
Got to look at UNC Denver. Duke,
UNC
Richmond.
Denver, although UNC coming off a little bit. Duke Richmond is definitely right there. This is a really tough game. I mean, the fact that you're going to play at Notre Dame, I think that's a really tough place to play for anyone. But Maryland has proved that they're willing to play fast. They're going to be a really tough team to match up with. But the reality is Jerry Burns' defense, they don't really need to win one-on-one matchups because they're so well-versed in play, as one group. And I think that they're going to slow Maryland down offensively for sure. I think P.J. Finley is going to do a great job at the X competing against Austin Henningsen. Engine goal to Notre Dame with Shane Doss. I think that Maryland is going to struggle to cover Ryder Garnsey. And I think that Notre Dame is going to score some goals. And so even though Maryland is coming in as the higher-ranked team, I think that Notre Dame is going to find a way to win this game. And I think that they're going to be I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, which won't make Bernsey happy. But as long as they get the W, he doesn't really care. And I could see it being, 14-12 Notre Dame. And so I'm actually going to go with Notre Dame, and I'm going to go with the over in this game.
Wow.
No way.
That's a right-on-left matchup.
I'm going picking Ryder Garnsey as my in-your-face week 6.
Wow.
Week 5 player of the week.
It's a little premature. He's awesome. And from that standpoint, I think the most important thing for Maryland is the first 15 seconds of every single possession. Get the ball to number one. You get the ball to him, everything else takes care of itself. He can feed, he can dodge, he can shoot. He can shoot off the dodge. He can shoot time and room. He can bully you around. He's always a threat off ball. He's a scary player. Get the ball to one. Notre Dame, on the other hand, won't have an answer because the hardest thing to do is to play transition defense. And if they start fast in the first 10, 15 seconds of the possession, they're going to have a lot of success versus a Maryland team. They're going to dominate the faceoff X. Despite Notre Dame's success at the faceoff, there's no one that can stop with Henningsen right now. This is
although Connor Mackey ripped him last week against Deal. Maybe not in the third quarter, but he ripped him in the first half.
Well, I feel like Henningsen's dealing with some potential injuries right now, but that shouldn't really matter. This is a big game. This is where they need him because this could determine home field advantage maybe later on when the committee comes down to it. So this is big. I do have Maryland one, which I believe is exactly the opposite of your pick.
I picked Notre Dame and the over. You picked Maryland.
And the over. Okay, great.
That's all right. You're good with shapes.
AT, talk to us. Last segment of the podcast or show, whichever you want to call it. Who is in the Rock Bottom Bowl this week?
Well, no, it's not UHart versus Jacksonville. They were runner-up.
They were runner-up. Oh, they're getting close. They're
two programs really even close. More rock bottom than Hartford and Jacksonville right now are St. John's and Siena.
Oh, no.
That's going to be the first Rock Bottom Bowl.
It's not Dartmouth. Square. It's not Dartmouth. They won.
Listen, Dartmouth evaded it. If my boy Richie Loftus continues to play on game day, they may win more games than just this one. And so St. John's has struggled this year, and Siena has struggled this year. St. John's is 0-3. They've gotten blown out 3 times. So the Siena game is coming at an ideal time. Siena played Hobart really, really well in their second game. I think they lost 16-15, something like that. Other than that, they've gotten blown out. But that shows that Siena has some life, and they are playing at home. And so given that the Rock Bottom Bowl has no lines and no over-under.
It's a pick 'em.
It's a I am going to take Siena in the Rock Bottom.
Oh, great. Because I'm going to take St. John's. Yes. I think this is where, and by the way, College Cross, if they're still listening to the show, if they ever listen to this show, they brought back Reverse Survivor. And if you don't know what Reverse Survivor is, check out their platform. Basically, it's the last team to win their first game of the season. That's what it is. And so I think that St. John's finally loses in the Reverse Survivor and gets there, and Siena stays in the loop to potentially win Reverse Survivor. I've got St. Rock Bottom Bowl. That is all for the show this week. As always, you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check us all out. Check our friends out as well. Lax All-Stars, of course, Lax Vegas Lines, who provides the lines. Thank you very, very much for doing that. SISU Mouthpieces, of course, they're our sponsor. Witness Evolution, really cool to see how much the kids are enjoying a mouthpiece for that matter. Tune in next week. We're going to dial in the show. We're going to get this under an hour, about 20 minutes over. That's all right. We're going to dial in the show a little bit better. But tune in next Wednesday, 9 a.m. for the live show. Until then, enjoy the lacrosse this weekend. We'll see you.